In this video, let's look at global inflation from a few different perspectives to see exactly how it is impacting all of our lives. I'm Corey, and on this channel I help you decode technology and innovation to grow your wealth on the journey to financial independence. In this video, let's revisit this ever-present topic of inflation, because while this channel looks at technology and innovation with a focus on crypto, none of us live in a vacuum, and inflation is hitting us all from many different angles. So let's take stock of where we are. The highest inflation since the 1970s? Check. Central banks aggressively raising rates globally? Check. Consumer sentiment at record lows? Check. And commodity prices still near all-time highs. This one is a maybe depending on the country you live in. And inflation has altered the economic mood globally from Sri Lanka to the UK. In the past 6 months, inflation has significantly exceeded what was consensus only back in 2021. In many countries, actual inflation rates have doubled the projections. European countries have particularly been affected. See here on screen, inflation in Lithuania is running at 15.5% annually, nearly 5 times the rate expected. Poland is at 11%. The United Kingdom is at 9%, both well above projections. At 3%, we have Switzerland, which is an outlier. Let's see how that holds up over time. Asia is seeing less severe change. With India, inflation is about 7% at the time of this video, and only a bit above projections, and in South Korea, it's at 5%. In China and Japan, inflation remains muted, but let's see how that plays out as well over the long term, given things are changing daily. In response to inflation's alarming rise, which I first talked about late last year, link in the show notes below, central banks worldwide are raising their core bank lending rates. So far, however, rate rises in most countries have not matched the pace of inflation, as you can see on screen. Next, rising rates are expected to kill demand and lower prices for two critical components of headline inflation: housing and commodities, such as energy and metals. Time will tell if this plays out, but it seems unlikely that inflation goes back towards 2019 levels anytime soon around the world, even if the levels drop from the mountaintop they're on right now. So in plain speak, central banks are raising interest rates to make us all poorer so that we cannot or do not want to demand or buy goods or services. So let's look at housing prices. Housing prices globally rose sharply even before the inflation wave of 2022, as the health crisis that started in 2020 spurred a massive real estate reshuffle around the world. Here you can see the rise from 2020 to 2021. House prices soared well past expectations in a fairly global fashion, and you can see the circles for each nation represent home price expectations versus what actually happened. Now, if we take a closer look, in Europe, Turkish homeowners saw the biggest gains, followed closely by those in the Czech Republic and Lithuania. In Asia Pacific, New Zealand and Australia also notched big gains, with Australia historically having an insane housing market. In North America, the United States and Canada both benefited from the surge in home price inflation, and Mexico, on the other hand, did not, but they also did not shut down and they did not print as much money as we did in, let's say, the US. If we continue around the globe, in Colombia, one of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, or OECD countries in South America, the gains were small in the house price sector. The explosion in fertilizer prices, along with other fallout from the war, has pushed prices for basic foods much higher, as you can see around the world. Since 2021, food prices have risen to their highest level since the United Nations Food and Agriculture Office began its index tracking these prices around the world. Prices today are considerably higher than in the past surges of 2008 and 2011, which were precipitated by the turmoil of the great financial crisis of that era. In the decades since, prices have moderated considerably, but they turned sharply higher in 2021 with supply chain snags, drought, and other forces at work around the world. So next, let's look at what most people care about in their day-to-day lives a lot, and this is wages. With all these different types of inflation, it becomes clear to understand exactly why the wages we all make today are not measuring up. Real wages have flattened for many years in the biggest OECD economies, and real wages refers to your salary adjusted for inflation. Just before the global health crisis, real wages moved powerfully higher. Tightening labor markets gave workers the upper hand in negotiations. However, the health crisis radically altered the equation, of course. As the economy stabilized and reflated, real wages began to creep higher and higher. On the other hand, rampant inflation wiped out a lot of the gains in real wages, because inflation rose so fast that it diminished the purchasing power of people's take-home pay. For example, workers in the United Kingdom today have seen their real consumption fall by roughly 8% year on year. As we land the plane here, one thing to keep in mind with all the various data discussed here is that since there's never one thing driving all of these global factors, you should keep in mind that it is not only one data point moving lower that will mean we're truly in the clear. This means that where we get inflation generally moving down in some areas, it may stay high in other areas, and this will continue to impact all markets, especially crypto, regardless of the micro changes day to day or in specific countries or even in your specific city or your specific facts. Join me on the path to decoding technology and innovation to grow your wealth on the journey for financial independence. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Until next time.